Greetings to all. Welcome to the Impact webinar Speeding Up Japan's Path to a Clean Hydrogen Future. My name is Kayla, and the content analysis from Leader Associates. It's my great honor to be a host for today's event. Japan has a proud history of leading the way in the development of hydrogen technologies. As one of the world's largest demand centers for hydrogen, Japan has played a crucial role in advancing the industry. However, the industry now stands at a critical crossroads, faced with the decision to either continue investing or risk falling behind. Therefore, this webinar provides a unique opportunity to convene industry experts to discuss the current status, identify gaps, and develop solutions. Our distinguished speakers will share valuable insights into government initiatives and the investment opportunities, enabling us to chart a viable and sustainable path forward for the industry and make a positive impact on our planet. During this time, we would encourage all the audience to raise with questions in the Q&A box, as we have a fantastic industry lineup. We kindly request that you mute your electronic devices during which the webinar. Last but not least, this Impact webinar is also the prelude conference of our physical event, Connecting Green Hydrogen Japan 2023, which will take place on October 17th to 18th in Tokyo. Our list of early confirmed key players include JBIC, Tokyo Gas, Crump, Siemens Energy, Uniper, and more partners to be announced. We also look forward to your participation. Without further ado, let's invite our opening keynote speaker on stage, Hiroki Yoshida-san, Deputy Director of Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Strategy Office, Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry. Hiroki-san will provide us with an overview of Japan's current state of the hydrogen industry and the important role of the government in promoting clean hydrogen. Hi, Hiroki-san. The floor is open for you right now. Let's welcome.
Thank you very much for introduction, and thank you very much for inviting me to this wonderful seminar as one of the speaker for me. And my name is Hiroki Yoshida from Hydrogen Fuel Cell Strategy Office of Agency for Natural Resources and Energy of Ministry of Economic Trade and Industry in Japan. Today, I'm going to make presentation on Japan's visions and action toward the hydrogen economy. Next slide, please. Yeah, Japan is the first country to formulate a national hydrogen strategy in 2017. Prime Minister set the 2015 carbon neutral declaration, and Japan positioned hydrogen as one of the priority areas in the green growth strategy in 2020. In addition, Japan is trying to expand the amount of hydrogen introduction and to achieve cost reductions through the government support, including Green Innovation Fund projects and investments toward green transformation GX. Our target is shown bottom of this slide, focusing on volume and cost. Regarding to volume, currently approximately 2 million ton hydrogen, target is 3 million ton by 2030, 20 million ton by 2050. Regarding to cost, currently 100 Japanese yen per normal cubic meter. Target is 30 Japanese yen per normal cubic meter by 2030, 20 Japanese yen per normal cubic meter by 2050. Next slide, please. Okay. This table shows rough roadmap for supply side and demand side. Regarding the supply side, we are now one back slide to roadmap. Yeah, thank you very much. Regarding to the supply side, we are now developing international hydrogen supply chain and new domestic supply sources. So far, these are demonstration phase, but we are trying to make them as a commercial basis by 2030 and upscaling and diversification until 2050. Regarding to demand side, transportation sector continue to roll over leading hydrogen demand. We are now seeking to promote the introduction of fuel cell trucks for more volume of demand in transportation sector. We expect power generation sector will make large-scale demand, and it will contribute to hydrogen's development supply chain development, same to LNG. Hydrogen also has a potential to decarbonize steel and chemical production process and heat demand. So we are doing demonstration project in this field as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, we are conducting large-scale electrolyzer demonstration project in Fukushima and Yamanashi, alkaline electrolyzer plant in Fukushima Prefecture, PEM electrolyzer plant in Yamanashi Prefecture. Currently, a large demonstration project are underway for further increasing electrolyzer capacity, improvement of operation, and reducing cost of electrolyzer. Next slide, please. We are now developing international hydrogen supply chain. Methyl-cyclohexane, MCH, as a hydrogen carrier in the demonstration project was completed in June 2020 between Brunei and Japan. Liquefied hydrogen carrier completed the world first maritime transport authorized to Japan in February 2022, including loading and unloading of liquefied hydrogen. Followed by large-scale demonstration project aimed at commercialization by 2029. And Japan does not have sufficient renewable energy potential, and Japan is an island country. Japan is developing maritime transportation technology for hydrogen. So we believe this technology can unlock and enable potential of countries with abundant renewable energy potential, including Africa and South Africa, for international hydrogen trade. Next slide, please. Currently, approximately 7,600 FCBs and 180 hydrogen reference station HRS are deployed as of November 2022. Fukushima Prefecture and Toyota are preparing to start a FC truck demonstration project, including refueling timing management. We are also starting to develop high-speed refueling protocol for heavy-duty vehicles. In addition, hydrogen refueling station is trying not only to expand refueling volume to vehicles, but also to provide hydrogen for multiple use. Moreover, hydrogen and ammonia are expected to be used in ships and airplanes in the future. Next slide, please. Japan has been a world leader in hydrogen power generation technology. Demonstration projects are underway for both large and small turbines. We understand that power generation contributed to balancing of renewable energy fluctuations. It means power generation is still important even as an increasing of renewable energy sources. Japan will contribute to world efforts to commercialization hydrogen power generation. Hydrogen boiler has already had deployment case. Hydrogen is expected to be used as a heat source at high temperature required in industry process. Projects using hydrogen as a heat source are underway in diverse fields, including auto parts manufacturing, tire manufacturing, and coffee roasting. Next slide, please. In order to create a hydrogen implementation model, we are encouraging regions, private companies, and relevant bodies which have potential of hydrogen activities to start a discussion, to start feasibility studies, R&Ds, demonstration project, and or actual implementation. A kind of regional model and or hydrogen cluster are called hydrogen hub or hydrogen valley. This is a snapshot of Fukushima. Fukushima Prefecture, located in north part of Japan, is one of active prefecture for hydrogen. They have Fukushima Hydrogen Industry Academia Government Collaboration Committee in order to share progress of hydrogen project and discuss how to develop local industry with hydrogen. As you know, NEDO is handling the demonstration project for large-scale electrolyzer with renewable energy at the Fukushima Hydrogen Energy Research Field, FA2R. Fukushima Prefecture and Namie Town are using hydrogen and fuel cell for their public facilities. This hydrogen comes from FA2R. Fukushima Renewable Energy Institute, IST, FLARE, conduct R&D and D related to hydrogen and support the technology development of the companies and universities. Sumitomo Rubber Industries, tire manufacturer, has started demonstration project for deployment of hydrogen boiler at their factory line. Denso car parts manufacturer also has started demonstration project for using electric heater and hydrogen burner in their production line. Iwatani and Soma Gas Group, gas providers, has started a feasibility studies for blending hydrogen into their gas services. Next slide, please. This is another snapshot of Yamanashi. Yamanashi Prefecture, located in center of Japan, is another active prefecture for hydrogen. They have Yamanashi Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Related Industry Development Committee in order to share progress of a hydrogen project and to discuss how to develop local industry with hydrogen. Yamanashi Prefecture has developed renewable power plant and hydrogen technology many years. Yamanashi Prefecture started to develop 16 megawatt class integrated electrolysis system and hydrogen boiler in cooperation with Toray, Hitachi Zosen, Siemens Energy, Kaji Technology, and Miura. UCC Ueshima Coffee has started a demonstration project for hydrogen heat use at their factory, especially roasting their coffee product in cooperation with Yamanashi Prefecture, TEPCO Energy Partner, Toray, and Tomoe. Yamanashi Prefecture is not only doing R&D and demonstration project, but they also established Yamanashi Hydrogen Company, YHC, with Toray and TEPCO Energy Partners to provide power to gas services as output of and outcome of their project. In addition, Yamanashi University is doing hydrogen-related R&Ds, such as electrode catalyst for high performance and cost reduction. In addition, Association of Hydrogen Supply and Utilization Technology, HISAT, provide human resource development services for hydrogen refueling station. Next slide, please. Yeah, we have a lot of R&D and demonstration, but we need more effort to actually use in this field. So METI, METI established a new subcommittee for hydrogen policy in March 2022. The subcommittee has had intensive discussion on support scheme for narrowing the price gap between clean hydrogen and counterfactual fuels for set period and on support scheme for developing infrastructure. This slide shows a support scheme for narrowing the price gap, like a contract for difference CFD for 15 years of interim report of subcommittee. Support will based on price gap. It means like price and reference price per project. Regarding of the S+3E principles, safety, energy security, economic efficiency, environment, evaluate to suppliers project from strategic perspectives. The subcommittee will continue to develop details in this year. Next slide, please. Yeah. Japan launched the hydrogen energy ministerial meeting, HEM in 2018. We believe the the Hydrogen Energy Minister meeting is one of the most ideal meetings for hydrogen-related ministers and top executives to express and discuss direction to build a hydrogen society and future initiatives. METI and NEDO held the fifth Hydrogen Energy Minister meeting in cooperation with IEA as a part of Tokyo GX Week on September 26, 2022. As a result of a meeting, the chair released the chair's summary for accelerating and enlargement of the Tokyo Statement and the Global Action Agenda, including additional goals on the amount of renewable and low-carbon hydrogen to be produced by 2030 of the at least 9 million ton hydrogen. As a small side story, UCC Ueshima Coffee Company provided their hydrogen roasted coffee for this Hydrogen Energy Minister meeting. Next slide, please. International cooperation is important to realize a hydrogen economy globally. Japan is engaging in a wide range of international multilateral cooperation, not limited to the cooperation shown here. In order to realize international hydrogen trade, we are now facing the importance of developing international standard of certification, including greenhouse gas calculation methodology for hydrogen production and mutual recognition mechanism for carbon intensity-based hydrogen trade. IPHE, International Partnership for Hydrogen and Fuel Cell in the Economy, IPHE, has developed a working document for the methodology for GHG calculation, and ISO Technical Committee 197 is starting development of international standards based on the IPHE document. So we are in now very crucial period for unlocking international trade. So next slide, please. International bilateral cooperation is also important to realize the hydrogen economy. We have a hydrogen-related memorandum of cooperation with several countries. This image shows a case of between Japan and New Zealand. In addition, industry association and individual companies also have a memorandum of cooperation with several partners, such as between Japan Hydrogen Association JH2A and New Zealand Hydrogen Council NZHC, and between private companies. We look forward to developing further collaboration with global partners, and together we would like to together with global partners to accelerate and unlocking international hydrogen supply chain and scaling up utilization of hydrogen. Thank you very much.
Hiroki-san. Yeah, I very much appreciate for your impressive presentation on the Japan Clean Hydrogen future. And some of our audience have proposed several interesting questions for you. Maybe I want to introduce two questions for you. The first one is, in the long term, what's Japan's strategy regarding the production and the import of green hydrogen? And if possible, how will the ratio between domestic production and the importation be divided?
Thank you very much. It means a question to me?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we focus on the energy security aspect, ideally, we have sufficient and abundant resource domestically, but in Japan, unfortunately, we don't have sufficient renewable energy sources, so we need to import from. We need hydrogen import from foreign countries, so we now developing international supply chains. And of course, we depend on one country. It also could be a kind of energy security risk. So we should cooperate with many countries, and we have securing diversity sources for receiving hydrogen. So now we are very actively engaging multilateral cooperation and also developing in bilateral cooperations. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, and the next question for you is, it's important to lower transport cost. How can Japan achieve the competitive cost? Hiroki-san?
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Yes, of course, if we using a transportation system, not only for hydrogen, but also other fuels, of course, it could make some additional cost for transportation. So we are now developing liquefied hydrogen technology and also LOH technology, such kind of have potential to transport of large amount of hydrogen in cost effectiveness, and also, of course, we also have a potential using hydrogen carrier, ammonia as a hydrogen carrier. So we have many options, but of course, honestly, we understand liquid hydrogen technology and other new technology, it could be high expensive, but if not only Japan, but also other country interested and using such kind of technology, of course, we can get scale merit or some recurrent effective production of such vessel or something. So we believe cost could be going down if we use more hydrogen in, of course, not only Japan and other countries. So yes, this is also, of course, it is other good cooperation area for global hydrogen transportation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hiroki-san. Thanks again for your answering and then your analysis on Japan's green hydrogen industry. And I do believe Japan's hydrogen industry will have a bright future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now let's invite Taka-san, Queensland Government's Trade and Investment Commissioner based in Japan, and Sugiyama Masakazu-san, Professor in the Department of Electrical Engineering and Information Systems at the University of Tokyo, to present the next joint keynote, Japan's hydrogen trade market, opportunities for collaboration with Japan and Queensland. Taka-san.
Thank you. Thanks for the introduction, and thanks for this opportunity to speak to everyone today. My name is Adachi. I'm the Trade Commissioner based in Tokyo for Queensland Government. I'd like to start acknowledging our special hydrogen envoy to Queensland, Professor Masakazu Sugiyama. He's heading up the Research Center for Advanced Science and Technology at the University of Tokyo. So just to set the scene in terms of Queensland and Japan relationship, I'd like to share a couple of slides. So just to quick introduction, my organization, Trade and Investment Queensland, is the international marketing agency for Queensland Government. I'm based in Tokyo, but we have we've been facilitating a lot of Japanese activities into Queensland, particularly in hydrogen area. And then we're seeing a lot of activities in the last couple of years. Just to give you a bit of a background about for those who don't know Queensland much, I just wanted to explain where we are. We are in northeast corner of the Australia, and then it's the second largest state in terms of land size in Australia, and the land size is about 5 times the size of Japan, with a population of just over 5 million people. And then we are proud to be the Sunshine State of Australia. Proud to have 8 hours of sunshine and 300 days of fine days. So we've got plenty of renewable energy sources. And that's the trigger for a lot of activities we have. We have also announced last September, the $62 billion investment in Queensland through the Queensland Energy and Jobs Plan. We set the target for 70% renewable by 2032. The reason why 2032, that's the year Brisbane, our capital city, is hosting climate positive Olympics. So that's a very important target for us. And also we have launched the Queensland Hydrogen Industry Strategy in 2019. That's when our Premier has actually visited in Japan. Since then, we have been seeing a lot of investment in the renewable sectors. So we have seen over in excess of 100 investment leads across Queensland, not just the all export-driven project, but also domestic, local demand type of projects. In the last, I would say, in a couple of years, we are also seeing a lot of related manufacturing opportunities emerging, including electrolyzer, pumps, and water-related technologies, which is great to build the supply chain. In terms of the international partnership, I think this whole hydrogen industry development requires more than one country. I think in terms of a partnership, we need a lot of expertise and strengths from different partners. These are some of the examples of all the international partnership happening across the state. Many of them are actually Japanese companies. Just to pick up a few examples, even just of this year, we are seeing some of the latest developments. ENEOS Corporation has opened a demonstration project in early 2023, actually in late January. I have had the pleasure of attending the opening ceremony as well for the demonstration plant in Brisbane, the Port of Brisbane. And then in this month, one of our the government-owned corporation, CS Energy, has signed MOU with Sojitz Corporation in terms of MOU for green hydrogen, but also sustainable aviation fuel and e-fuel. So I'll stop it here, and then we wanted to introduce the Sugiyama Sensei from Tokyo University, and then maybe instead of asking, going through the presentation from this point, I wanted to ask, throw a few questions and tough questions for Sugiyama Sensei, and he can probably elaborate on those questions. Maybe Sugiyama Sensei, the first question, since your first visit to Queensland more than 5-6 years ago, you have seen lots of developments, obviously, concerning Japanese hydrogen activities in Queensland and broadly in Australia. What do you see, from your point of view, are the key drivers behind the interest in activities we're seeing from Japan?
Okay, so Tak, can I myself share the slide?
Yes.
Oops. Okay. By the way, hello everyone. I'm Sugiyama, and I'm pretty much excited to be able to participate in this very wonderful event. And to answer to the Tak's initial question, yes, as also the Mr. Yoshida has addressed in the preceding slot, we are more seriously thinking about the how to realize the carbon neutrality or the net zero in Japan towards the 2050. And we actually have not a small number of a quantitative assessment as for the pathways and scenarios for that carbon neutrality. And this is one example, which is actually under the discussion in my community in the University of Tokyo. And this actually, I hope that this is on your screen. It is correct? Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay, good. So this is left-hand side of the existing picture, and right-hand side is our aggressive scenario, which realizes the carbon neutrality in 2050. And just in a short period, please notice that in this aggressive scenario, the most of the energy demand should be shifted to the electricity, because electricity can be fed domestically by either solar and wind. So this is a very important thing, but still, in order to realize this picture behind this, actually, we have the tremendous capacity of the solar. For example, the most aggressive installation of solar will amount to 600 gigawatt. This is 10 times larger capacity than we have in the existing Japan. So the realization of this very aggressive picture, which is mostly powered by renewable electricity, is of course the thing that we need to struggle to realize, but not easy to realize actually. So the second item, which is shown here by pink, is hydrogen. And this hydrogen is for industry sectors other than electricity. But actually also for electricity, if the renewables are not well disseminated, or more scientifically, even though we try to disseminate the renewables, which is intermittent, still we need alternative or adjustable power generation mechanism to supplement the fluctuation of the solar and wind, and which is mostly gas firing. But the gas firing can never be the natural gas in 2050 because we need to realize the carbon neutrality. So hydrogen is the only method that gives us the way to realize the carbon-free gas firing power generation. So summing up these two items, I mean the hydrogen for industrial sectors in these different bars, please notice this or this, okay? And uppermost variety of colors indicates the industrial consumption of the hydrogen. And this light green sector portion is representing the hydrogen for the power generation. So it is quite obvious that we need tremendous amount of the hydrogen in Japan to realize carbon neutrality, depending on several scenarios. If we aggressively introduce domestic solar and wind, the amount of the hydrogen is less, but still we will need close to 220 million ton per year hydrogen. This is quite equivalent to the Japanese government strategy. But if the aggressive installation of the solar and wind is not possible, we will actually have a double the amount of the hydrogen, which is over 40 million ton per year. So this actually gives us quite, how to say, the hard trial where to secure hydrogen, right? And here has been already a discussion that where to secure the power to generate the green hydrogen. And if we do that in Japan for the 20 million ton per year hydrogen, the Tokyo University have to, let's say, migrate to somewhere, probably merge with Osaka University or Tohoku University, I don't know, and the emperor have to go to the Kyoto. And if we do that in Australia, in Queensland, this picture, right? This is, I think, quite feasible. And we can actually distribute this square to the points that Tak has already pointed out. But, this can be a reality. So this kind of the conception is going to be, I think, more and more shared with the stakeholders in Japan. And we are recently quite sincerely looking for any place which can give us the stable supply of the green hydrogen. And of course, the hydrogen carrier technology is very important, but this is needless to say that is on the track of the good development. So the asset for generating the hydrogen is quite key to the realization of the net zero in Japan, as well as the net zero in Australia.
Thank you, Sugiyama Sensei. That's great. I like this. Always like this map of Australia versus Japan in terms of the impact on the CO2-free hydrogen.
Yeah.
And then my second question is that yes, these are like we're all working really hard to achieve this. I think the objective between Queensland and Japan and Australia, but the key challenges I think we're seeing obviously to really further develop the hydrogen industry and the society. From your point of view, I mean, what are the key issues and challenges that you see? I mean, obviously technology, you're one of the leading edge researcher in terms of developing those hydrogen technology, but obviously from the government point of view, we understand the infrastructure and regulations and obviously the financial feasibility or the capital, that money, weight of money that needs to really put toward this the industry. I think that all the combinations probably important, but from your point of view, what are the key challenges that you see that we need to overcome?
Okay, so actually this is a very tough question to answer in a simplest manner. Of course, we need a multi-fold approach from the most cutting-edge technological development, which aims at the reduction of the hydrogen cost, as well as the stable and abundant supply of the hydrogen. And that technology development has to be supported by the intensive investment, because the, if we do nothing in particular, we have to just continue the existing scheme of the energy supply, and that will definitely drive us to the global warming, and our life will be much harder to survive. So in that sense, in my personal opinion, the first thing that we need to do is to decide to make a substantial investment targeted and focusing on the such as energy transition, and especially some discontinuous energy supply scheme, such as the abundant generation of the green hydrogen in Australia and the transportation of the green hydrogen to Japan. So the point might be, the public acceptance of the decision of the investment to such a discontinuous and disruptive investment. That needs to be linked with some, from my academic point of view, some good demonstration of the technology, I think. So for example, the talk already mentioned about the, say, there's a direct organic hydride technology, MCH technology, which is now strongly pushed forward by ENEOS and the Chiyoda Corporation, supported by the local partners in Queensland. And this technology has been already at the stage of the benchmarking plant, as that has announced. And also, the hydrogen produced through this method has been already exported to Japan in reality, but through airplane. That is just a demonstration. But the point is that such a green hydrogen needs to be visualized. So actually, the 2 years ago, or almost no 1 year ago, 1.5 years ago, probably, excuse me, we have demonstrated that import of the solar green hydrogen from Queensland to Tokyo, and that green hydrogen taken out from the MCH has been fed into the Toyota Mirai, the Japanese most advanced technology. And I have been one of the most lucky guy in the world to drive on this Toyota Mirai driven by Queensland green hydrogen. So that was a real, how to say, prestigious experience. And I'd like to say, spread this, pioneering and encouraging approach that tells us that the future is with us. But that future cannot be obtained without tremendous effort. And that actually necessitates our agreement on making a substantial investment. And also, another good example is that the complement at mutual demonstration. I mean, that means, we Japan, yes, can be benefited from the Queensland. Then the Queensland themselves have to be also powered by green hydrogen. So for that, definitely the visualization or something like a theme park, like a Disneyland of the hydrogen, and the Queensland is very important. So in that sense, in my collaboration with the QUT, we have already implemented this a kind of some hydrogen Disneyland to me, right? Which can generate the green hydrogen on site, and you can plug in any of the new devices to this Disneyland place, right? So you can say attach new attraction to this green hydrogen Disneyland. So in that sense, this kind of the activity might be very vital for sharing the citizen, the world, that the future powered by green hydrogen is reality, but the our support is vital, right? So that's kind of the concerted agreement might be largely speaking quite a clue to realize our energy transition.
Well, that's great, Sugiyama Sensei. You touched on a couple of very important points like public acceptance, the capital and then commitment that needed to make it happen, and also I think the other important point that I think you're trying to talk about is the green jobs or the creations along the way, skills that's actually quite mutually beneficial between Japan and Australia and Queensland, because that's as you said, we're building the new industry, and then that public embraces along the way. So that's a great sort of way of, I think, concluding our session, and because I wanted to see that further collaboration between Japan and Queensland and obviously Australia. So thank you, Sugiyama Sensei, for your contribution, and I wanted to conclude this session and thank the listeners and pass it back to the organizer. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you, Taka-san and Sugiyama-san. Thank you for your kind sharing. This is a very vivid session, I think. And I would like to express my deepest appreciation for your insightful and thought-provoking keynote speeches on Japan's hydrogen trading market and its potential for collaboration with Queensland. And I have some questions from our audience. Let me check. The first question, I think it may be suitable for Sugiyama-san. Maybe the heat exchange efficiency is not so high. Can high temperature hydrogen solve the problem?
Yes, the high temperature generation of the hydrogen might be a good opportunity, especially we can make a good industrial complex. So always looking at the existing say a complex of the industry, they are driven by the opportunity of the circulating the heat from the one sector to another sector. So hydrogen definitely, hydrogen generation, I mean, definitely will be benefited from such a intake of the waste heat to assist the high efficiency of the hydrogen generation. But for that, we need to also cultivate a new technology like a solid state oxide water electrolyzer. So that kind of the new technological development might be next direction, I think.
Thank you, Sugiyama-san, and thanks again for Taka-san. And now let's welcome our next keynote. JBIC support for hydrogen value chain creation and will be presented by Hidaka-san, Director for JBIC. Hidaka-san.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to this webinar. I'm very excited to make a presentation today. My name is Yoshitaka Hidaka. I'm a director for Energy Transformation Strategy of Japan for International Corporation. Taking this opportunity, today I'd like to introduce a recent development and initiatives for creation of a hydrogen ammonia global value chain. So can you show my presentation material, please?
Sorry, can you, Hidaka-san, can you say again?
Could you please show my presentation material on?
Yeah, we can share your presentation. Please wait a moment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Next, please. This is an overview of our organization, JBIC. As you may know, JBIC is Japan Bank for International Corporation. It's a government financial agency of Japan, and it has been established as an Export-Import Bank of Japan in 1915 and renamed to JBIC right now. Our share is wholly owned by the government, and also the outstanding amount of the loan is roughly 120 billion US dollars equivalent. And we have currently 4 missions for operations, namely, and one is the securement of energy and natural resources, which is important to Japan. Another mission is to maintain and improve the international competitiveness of Japanese companies and also Japanese industries. Third mission is to preserve the global environment. And also the last mission is to prevent disruptions of international financial order, like Lehman shock in 2008 or Asian currency crisis in 1997, for example. For overseas networks, we have right now 18 representative offices all over the world. Next, please. This is the organizational chart of our energy and natural resources financial group. JBIC consists of 7 operational groups, and one of which is this energy and natural resources finance group I am belonging to. In July last year, in this group, we have established a new office named the Energy Transformation Strategy Office. I'm a director of this office for creation of global value chain of hydrogen and ammonia. So my team, financial team, is wholly dedicated to global value chain creation of hydrogen and ammonia, and also hydrogen derivatives like e-fuel, SAF or something. Next, please. This is a summary of our midterm business plan for the 3 years from 2021 to 2023. You can see the key focus area in red on top as a top priority of our operation. We put addressing the global issues toward the realization of sustainable development for the global economy, for society. Going to be a top priority at this moment for the next 3 years until 2023. This is our strong commitment for our hydrogen and ammonia business. So by doing this, we are responding to energy transformation toward the realization of a decarbonized society in Japan. Next, please. Next, please. This is a summary of concrete action plans and the midterm business plan I have touched upon in the previous note. In relation to the hydrogen ammonia global value chain creation, as written in red, we are promoting a green finance and transition finance simultaneously. And for green finance, we are extended loan and equities for promotion of production, transformation, and the utilization of hydrogen, including hydrogen derivatives like ammonia as a green finance. And also, we are promoting a transition finance. In this transition finance, we are promoting ammonia hydrogen mixed combustion, co-combustion at the fire power plants. For example, JERA, one of the largest utilities in Japan, are aiming to start ammonia coal mixed combustion at the Hekinan power plant in Aichi Prefecture. And with this in mind, we are providing necessary finance or extended loan to the project for procuring clean ammonia, for example, as a transition finance. Next, please. And for promotion of hydrogen ammonia global value chain creation, we have established a new facility named Global Investment Enhancement Facility. And this facility is intended to support Japanese companies' overseas activities for creation of infrastructure or global value chain. For example, of course, in this context, the hydrogen and ammonia project will be eligible for this facility. The strengths and attractiveness of this facility is funding sources. The most of funding sources of this facility are coming from foreign reserve held by the Ministry of Finance, the government of Japan. So JBIC is a sole agency which can access to foreign reserve of Japan. And from the foreign reserve, we can fund the US dollars or euro or any other currency with a very attractive terms and conditions. Then the fund will be passed through the individual borrowers. So through this facility, we are able to provide more attractive terms and conditional finance. Next, please. And this is an introduction of our special operation. We have right now two operations, namely ordinary operation and the special operation. The difference of these two operations are risk-taking capabilities. JBIC, we have started the special operation in 2016 in order for us to enable us to take further risk for overseas infrastructure investment. Since 2019, we have expanded the target of eligible project in line with Japanese government initiative in order to promote quality infrastructure investment. And right now, under this special operation, we are able to take more risk in relation to the new technology or project formation. So taking this special operations, our capability of risk taking will be enhanced than ever. So we would like to utilize this operation to the hydrogen ammonia related project. For example, the new type of electrolyzers or large scale electrolyzers will be utilized for the new type hydrogen production business. In that case, even though there's no enough track record over commercialization stage, still, just after the demonstration stage of the technology, we are able to take such kind of technology risk, which is oriented by Japanese companies. And also, in case of liquid hydrogen vessels, for example, we are able to such a project formation risk, even though the risk is relatively higher than before. Next, please. This is the list of our counterparties of MOU, Memorandum of Understanding in relation to hydrogen ammonia business. For many hydrogen ammonia business, the many developers are in the middle of feasibility study or pre-FEED or pre-FS. So in my view, the financial stage will be coming in a couple of years. In the meantime, we are developing ties and develop a relationship with the father for the creation of the relationship, developing a relationship with the hydrogen ammonia related parties like this. In the past, our counterparties of MOU have been the government or government state agencies or international financial institutions, because our institution is a public organization, financial institution. But recently, our new approach is different, little bit different from the strategy in the past. So, for example, in June last year, we have entered into a new memorandum of understanding (MOU) with Yara International from Norway, the largest fertilizer company. This is because the Yara is looking to Asian market for the fuel ammonia development. And also in October last year, we have also entered into MOU with Sembcorp Industries from Singapore. And Sembcorp is the major developer for hydrogen ammonia sector in Singapore. And we are looking to the same direction for creation of a global value chain in the wider Asian regions. That's why we entered into MOU with Sembcorp. Also, in Australia, we have entered into a MOU with Woodside and state of Western Australia and Santos. They are very focusing on the production of hydrogen ammonia, and also our approach is very similar to them for achieving a decarbonized society with Santos and Woodside. Next, please. This is the whole picture of a global value chain of hydrogen and ammonia we are trying to develop. So what we do for achieving this, our answer will be we do everything. We do extend the necessary finance to the related project described in this stage. And for the sources of hydrogen, of course, we are supporting production of green hydrogen and blue hydrogen. But for the initial stages, if necessary, we are supporting a gray hydrogen because our first priority is creation and development of a global value chain from third country to Japan. Also for the transportation projects, we are supporting every possible transportation measures, including liquidated hydrogen and ammonia, MCH, and methanation, and synthetic fuels. And lastly, for utilization, we are supporting every possible tools and measures like power generation, of course, and transportation and sources of heat and industrial usage. Next, please. This is the financial structure example based upon our experience of energy finance. This is a financial scheme for blue hydrogen ammonia production projects. And we are supporting a hydrogen ammonia production project itself, but if necessary, we are also supporting a natural gas production and also CCS, CCUS production for making it the ammonia hydrogen gonna be blue. Next, please. Next, please. This is a financial structure example for green hydrogen ammonia production projects. Like our support to a blue hydrogen production project, we are supporting green hydrogen ammonia production project itself. And also we are supporting the renewable energy generation projects for electricity supply to the hydrogen ammonia production projects. Next, please. Next, please. This is a financial structure example for transportation projects. And we are, as I told you earlier, we are supporting every possible transportation measures, including liquidated hydrogen, MCH, methanation, and ammonia. As long as the Japanese company, the vessels and carriers will be constructed in Japan. This is preconditions for our support, for your note. Next, please. And this is for downstream financial structure example. We are supporting hydrogen ammonia fueled power plants, even though it's a mixed combustion or single fuel combustion. Next, please. This is an example of our seamless support for creation of a global value chain. As I told, we are supporting Japanese companies overseas activities in relation to hydrogen ammonia, like a production of hydrogen ammonia itself, and also transportation project and utilization project. But in order for us to complete the global value chain, even though there is no Japanese companies involvement, if there is there will be missing parts or critical infrastructure which is directly related to Japanese companies and projects, such as port development port or installment of shipping tanks for hydrogen or ammonia or receiving tanks. These essential infrastructure are going to be critical for create a global value chain. Then we would like to provide the untitled loan to the host government or government-related entities, enterprises, if necessary. Then we are supporting from upstream, midstream to downstream, all every possible related project we are supporting. Next, please. This is another style of our seamless support for hydrogen ammonia projects. For many hydrogen ammonia developer, they are begin with a small scale project as the pilot project with some utilizing the host government subsidy or support. Then this pilot project will be successfully implemented. The developer will trying to scale up. And the second phase is as a second phases, and this second phase is will be a relatively larger scale project. Then the production of produced or hydrogen and ammonia from this second phase project will be exported to Japan. Then in this case, we are supporting from our initial first pilot project by utilizing equity investment if necessary. Then for the larger scale second phases project, we are trying to extend the project finance for creation or necessary large scale borrowing funds, debt finance. Next, please. Lastly, I'd like to touch upon our recent development or initiative or activities in relation to the hydrogen business. Firstly, this is the case of Iwatani Corporation and the hydrogen station project by Iwatani Corporation in California, the US. In this case, we are providing an extended loan to Iwatani Corporation in Japan for development of this hydrogen station project. This is a loan case. Next, please. This is a case for our equity investment approach. We have investing in the startup company named the First Element Fuel for a hydrogen station project in California, the US as well. In this case, we have invested in this startup company with some Japanese companies like METI or Toyota. This investment was made through our special operation I have touched upon earlier due to the uncertainty of hydrogen demand. Next, please. This is an introduction of our largest hydrogen-related fund investment. Last year, we decided to invest in the world's largest hydrogen-related fund named the Clean H2 Infra Fund. We have invested in this fund up to 100 million euro as a Anchor limited partner, Anchor LP. The reason why we decided to this investment is we have two reasons. Firstly, we'd like to obtain know-how or experiences from the cutting-edge hydrogen-related projects through this fund, and such experiences or know-how will be utilized to the upcoming pipelines we are supporting. This is the first reason. The next reason is the other LPs participating in this fund is the major hydrogen players. That's why through this fund, we would like to develop the strong relationship and ties with such hydrogen major players like Total Energy, Vinci, Plug Power, or from the US, or Air Liquide from the French. Through this fund, by participating in this fund, we have very close, frequent interactive with these hydrogen major players. So this approach is going to be of help for Japanese companies for the upcoming project. This is our strong approach. Thank you. Okay, I've covered everything. Thank you very much.
Hidaka-san, thank you so much for your excellent presentation. Here I also have some questions from our audience, and we can't wait to hear your answers to these questions. The first one is, to what degree are commercial parties treating hydrogen as a de facto successor to LNG? Hidaka-san?
I think the electricity market is right now liberalized. But in the past, when we create the energy value chain, the all necessary fuel costs will be passed through the electricity tariff. That's why the utility companies are easily able to procure the necessary funds from our lenders. But unfortunately, right now, fortunately or unfortunately, the electricity market in Japan is currently liberalized, and that's why it's going to be quite tough for the utility companies in general to procure the necessary funds. That's why our lenders will be able to play an essential role for taking risk instead of them.
Thank you. And the second question for you is whether or not JBIC will apply feasibility study fund towards the hydrogen project. Whether or not JBIC will apply feasibility study fund toward the hydrogen.
It's very good question, I think. We have support measure for feasibility study for hydrogen business in general, but we would like to note some essential important points. Firstly, in order for us to support the feasibility study, we need to conduct the open bidding process, for example. Then all information will be available and open to the public. So the second one is we cannot confirm the feasibility study contractor at this moment. So after the open bidding process, we need to select and choose the feasibility study contractor. And also the total volume budget will be roughly 30 million, 40 million Japanese yen equivalent. That's why roughly $300,000 equivalent. So the relatively small. So I think, in my view, for the support, official support of feasibility study, generally, and METI support or NATO support will be more better for compared to our support measure in general.
Yeah, thank you, Hidaka-san. Thanks again for your very informative sharing and generous answer to the questions, which is thought-provoking and interesting. Now let's move to the final speech of today's webinar. I'd like to introduce Mr. Melvin Chen, Head of Power and Renewables Consulting APAC and Wood Mackenzie, to deliver the keynote, Unlocking the Potential of Green Hydrogen in the Power and the Renewables Sector. Let's welcome.
Thank you, Kayla. I hope everyone can hear me all right, and I'll try to share my screen.
Yeah.
Again, hopefully everyone can see my screen clearly.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. Like Ilan mentioned, my name is Melvin Chen. I head up McKinsey's Power Renewables Consulting team, covering the APAC region, and I'm based out in Singapore. So for those of you who are not familiar with McKinsey, we're actually a global leader in the energy research and consultancy space. So we cover across the entire energy spectrum, across from upstream oil and gas, through down to downstream refining chemicals and metals and mining. And in the sector we're sitting currently, power renewables. So, for my sector in particular, we do cover the entire global markets, and I look at the APAC market specifically, Japan included in quite a bit of details, given the interest in the Japan market today. But in the parallel, we do have a hydrogen team, that looks at the growth of the hydrogen market, given how important it is as an energy transition fuel going out into the near future. So, we marry these two together essentially, and we look at how the hydrogen, or specifically, green hydrogen, can help to decarbonize the power industry. And this is the focus of my presentation today. And I'm happy to take questions after if you have any. So jumping, straight in. I mean, just to kick off, and I think one of the earlier presenters actually mentioned this as well. There is actually a lot of, I think most of you are aware as well. There's a lot of, end use application potential for hydrogen. Even today, there's a lot of hydrogen being demand, through the methanol, fertilizer, and refining sectors, but mainly through gray hydrogen at the moment. And we also use hydrogen, in a smaller extent in passenger vehicles, for example, through fuel cell. But beyond that, there's a lot of further applications that could potentially be used. Shipping is one that is catching a lot of attention today. The heating sector, I think that was mentioned previously by another presenter as well. And even in the harder to decarbonize sectors, such as aviation and steel. But beyond that, where we see actually the most potential for green hydrogen in particular is really in the power sector, and primarily because there's so much demand essentially in term from a gas and coal perspective today, which hydrogen can displace going out into the future and beyond. Purely hydrogen powered power plants could be used within the power systems as a form of low carbon generation source as well. So there is a lot of potential, and there's a lot of interest at the moment, as alluded by again the earlier speakers. In this chart here, we don't look so much at the the technical complexities, some of the challenges that potentially these various sectors face in terms of adopting green hydrogen in terms of their usage, but more in terms of the level of interest and scale. And one more thing to point out here is there's different ways to utilize green hydrogen. In its own form, you can blend that with gas, but through ammonia, for example, it can be blended or co-fired with coal. And even as a e-fuel or through battery cells, fuel cells as well, it can be used in in power generation. It can be used in passenger vehicles. So there's multiple ways of leveraging on green hydrogen. I don't think there's a consensus today in terms of how we do it. A lot of it is in pilot stages. A lot of these various projects or way to decarbonize each of these sectors is very much in theoretical conceptualization stage at the moment. But again, there is a lot of potential, and we do see a lot of eventually leading down to a lot of end use demand for hydrogen. And here we have is a quick snapshot in terms of where we think the demand for green hydrogen could sit in across different sectors globally out to 2050. And as you can see here, today, like I mentioned, refining, methanol, ammonia already command a high demands of hydrogen. So there's a low hanging fruit essentially where you can switch to green hydrogen, notwithstanding cost, of course, in terms of from a parity perspective. But where we see the largest potential in terms of green hydrogen penetration is really through the power sector. And again, it's through your coal firing or blending of hydrogen or ammonia into your power systems with your current thermal fuels in order to help you to decarbonize the system. So from this perspective, we see power as the leading driver for green hydrogen, from the medium term onwards, so from 2030s onwards, and that will really define the how much demand for green hydrogen potentially there could be, as part of this overall energy transition. Another thing to point out here in this slide is, this is purely from a current situation perspective, what we call a base case scenario. The energy transition is not going to be a linear process. It's going to be something that we'll have a lot of twists and turns along the way. But the way we see it is, from a base case perspective, we're not going to be meeting the Paris Agreement targets, of 1.5 degree. Our base case, translates more to a 2.5, 2.6 degree world. So to get to a 1.5 degree world, as per what Paris set out as its targets, the demand for green hydrogen needs to increase multifold from what you see over here, which means the potential for green hydrogen into power could be many times what we see as this picture here today. So if I were to just briefly touch on how does Japan sort of sit in terms of from a green hydrogen perspective, and why green hydrogen is needed. And I think the earlier speaker also mentioned this as well. If you look at it from a power system perspective, today in Japan, the power system is still dominated by thermal, mainly gas, with coal. And it's a similar situation in many countries across Asia Pacific, and that's how legacy systems tend to be. Over time, you definitely see a lot more wind, solar penetration, and this is what all the a lot of the policies and government initiatives are geared towards, incentivizing greater growth in renewables, especially through solar and wind. But to a certain level, you need to retain stability in the market. You need to ensure you have a flexible power system that can meet the needs. Going back to the energy trilemma, it needs to be sustainable, it needs to be affordable. So in this case, what happens is that renewables by itself, cannot be the final solution. You need to start bringing in things like battery storage, which by itself is not cost effective at this moment or cost competitive, or other forms of base load. If you're blessed with hydro, geothermal, that's great. Nuclear, is always part of the equation, depending on how you term it as green or not, depending on which geography you're sitting in at the moment. But beyond that, we do still see a role for fossil fuel, gas in particular, but to a certain extent, coal as well, playing a role within the system to provide flexibility and also stability to the grid. So in that kind of scenario, in order to decarbonize the overall power system, you need to rely on fuels such as green hydrogen. So burning green hydrogen instead of gas, burning ammonia instead of your coal, in order to achieve a further decarbonization of the system, and while still affording the grid stability, the grid flexibility that people demand of the power system. So from that perspective, there's a few challenges in terms of how we can get green hydrogen, more mainstream into the power sector. And there's really two key challenges here that we see. I think the first challenge is really from a technical perspective. Today, your gas turbines or boilers do not allow for 100% firing of hydrogen within the system. They're not designed for such usage. There's a lot of initiative. Japan, is leading the way. And earlier, some of the speakers did mention some of the projects being ongoing at the moment in terms of trialing, piloting hydrogen co-firing, blending into the gas-fired CCGTs, as well as ammonia co-firing into your coal-fired power plants. And this is really to understand the technical limits of current plants, of current technical designs, to see how far we can push the envelope. There's numbers being thrown around 20-30% these days in terms of how far we can push it. Nobody really knows, to be honest, in terms of how safe it is, how technically feasible it is, without causing long-term damage to the plant itself. So this is all being tested at the moment. But it's not just Japan that's doing it. Australia, Europe, in the US, you see many projects being taken off, led by both developers and OEMs alike, to really understand the the technical challenges in terms of how we can get a greater penetration of green hydrogen into the power system at its current level. And beyond that, there's already existing pilots to try to convert some of the new build plants, not just purely from a blending or co-firing perspective into 100% green hydrogen fueled or powered plants. So that is in process, and there's expectations of this happening within the next decade. So within 10 years time, again, we need to hold our breath in terms of how quickly the technology can scale to do that. But that is one key factor in terms of how quickly demand for green hydrogen can scale. Beyond that, it's really about policy support as well. In Japan, we're seeing a lot of very clear policies in terms of pushing a hydrogen society or economy, and allowing for more this kind of pilot plans to be ran with government support. We are seeing that now with Repower EU and also the Inflation Reduction Act in the US, through the reduction, through the subsidies or the tax credits given to hydrogen projects, pushing down the cost to a level where it's comparable or at least economical enough to start doing a lot of this. So again, policy support is important in order for companies to take their first step out in terms of pushing the technical boundaries in terms of what can be done here. And the next challenge that we see here is really down then to a cost perspective. Going back to the energy trilemma, I think affordability is always a big question in terms of how much of a increase in power costs related to the energy transition, related to decarbonization, can then be pushed down to to society. I think the answer today is not much, to be honest. So from a cost perspective, we do need to see cost parity for hydrogen fired power plants in order for them to become more mainstream within the entire system. So over here, what we have tried to lay out is a quick snapshot of the levelized cost of electricity on an average basis across Asia Pacific. So what we did was we look at it on a country basis, and this is a snapshot of of how APAC looks like as a region. And clearly you can see here on the right hand side, where we have tried to estimate the lifetime cost of a gas-fired power plant blended with hydrogen 30% or even 100% fuel, is that by 2030 these plants are just not cost competitive with either renewables today or renewables with storage, which is probably a better comparison from a sort of a baseload power perspective. And again, if our country is blessed with resources across hydro, geothermal, or even nuclear, from then a cost perspective, you're likely having to pay significant premiums or green premiums in this case to have this green hydrogen powered plants into your system, as compared to just a purely sort of renewables driven transition. Fortunately, or rather unfortunately, the flip side is that comparatively with CCS, hydrogen then becomes a stronger economic case in terms of starting to convert some of these plants using hydrogen as compared to using CCS as an alternative to decarbonize your fossil fuel generation. So from that perspective, it does make it starts to make economic sense. But comparatively with the system today, it's hard to see a very strong economic case. Less government subsidies, of course, which is the case with Europe and Americas today, to really make a big push. Notwithstanding again the technical challenges we see, or as mentioned earlier on. So where do we see sort of green hydrogen getting costs, in terms of from a cost perspective, being in terms of being parity with your gas-fired generation, which is really the first level of test, because again, your competition is not really with your renewables, as you can see in the earlier picture. And the way we see it is, from a cost parity perspective, it's probably going to happen somewhere in the 2030s. There is a lot of moving parts in terms of how we can get there. First is, of course, how quickly the cost of hydrogen can scale. I noticed a question in the Q&A panel earlier on in terms of how how likely is, green hydrogen or hydrogen in particular cost going to be coming down? Is it going to be the same trajectory as solar, for example? And then the quick answer is yes. But how quickly is the big unknown, because there's so much variables to it. One of the biggest driver is really in terms of your cost of your electrolyzers, and that itself, there's so much R&D going on. There's so much supply potentially coming on, and we could see economies of scale taking off. So from that perspective, we could see that coming down. Energy inputs, which means that renewables, cost of renewable storage, for example, again as well, will also be an important cost, and how quickly that scales down. So again, it's not just from a purely competitive standpoint, it's also from a input standpoint. The faster renewables cost comes down, the faster you can push down your green hydrogen cost as well. But beyond that, every country has different type of resources in terms of solar, wind. So you do see, and even electrolyzers have different, potential for utilization rates. So what you see then is a very big range of potential costs of hydrogen, in different jurisdictions around the world. So, and on the flip side of the coin, how much gas prices will be going out, into the future is also a big unknown. If you were to go back, just a year ago, when JKM, TTF prices were hitting, $40, $50 per MMBTU, suddenly green hydrogen, even in its current stage, looks pretty attractive, to be honest. But that's not a sustainable level of prices. So, going forward, what level of, JKM prices you have in Japan, for example, or TTF prices in Europe, will largely determine, when green hydrogen becomes cost competitive, with your fossil fuel generation, particularly gas, and of course displacing gas as a form of low carbon generation and a low carbon baseload generation, I must add, within the power system. So with that, now I'll conclude my today's presentation. It's really about from a green hydrogen's perspective, we see a lot of potential, in terms of its usage, as part of the overall energy transition. We think it is a very key component of the energy transition, or key fuel that's required to help us to decarbonize the world, and in particular the power system as well. For the reasons mentioned earlier on around grid stability and flexibility, you will need some form of baseload generation, which can be achieved through green hydrogen power. But the cost, the technology needs to be ready for it, and that's not going to be happening, unfortunately, in the next, within the next decade. But technologies can scale quickly, so never say no, I think, in terms of that. So it's a very interesting space to watch in terms of how quickly we can get there for green hydrogen. So thank you, and happy to take questions if there's any.
Thank you very much for presenting such an informative speech. And during your presentation, we can see from our Q&A box, there are many questions, and I want to pick 2 questions for you. And the first question is, Melvin Chen, what's your advice for Japanese government or Japanese corporates to capitalize on the hydrogen momentum?
Sorry, the question is how can Japanese corporates, is it, capture the hydrogen momentum? To be honest, I think Japanese corporates are already doing it. We see Japanese corporations really being some of the first movers in terms of the hydrogen economy. We've already investments in projects in Australia. We saw many projects in Queensland being signing MOUs globally to really take advantage of that. With IRA today, we are seeing a lot of Japanese interest to build hydrogen facilities in the US, to export, to take advantage of the the tax credits and export this hydrogen to Japan. But I think what's important as well is from a technology perspective. I think Japan has always been a leader in terms of manufacturing technology, power generation technology. Mitsubishi's, IHI's of the world, and they and again they're doing it, taking the lead in terms of driving pushing the technology barriers, to adopt greater hydrogen. From a transportation perspective, what is the optimal mode of transportation? Is it liquid hydrogen? Is it MCH? Is it is it ammonia? So again, being at the forefront of that, being the first mover will really, give a great advantage. And again, they're all doing it. So I don't think there's any questions to how Japanese company can take advantage of that.
Thank you. And the next question is, liquefied natural gas today is one of the used source for power, and the hydrogen is also seen as another source. So in the next 20 years, how do you see the split between LNG and the hydrogen in power generation?
Okay, great question. It's a it's a bit of a crystal ball. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but we do see a lot of potential displacement at a large scale if we need to go and meet the 1.5 degree world essentially. So I think today, based on current trajectory in terms of technology and all that, I think there's a lot of limitations in terms of how much hydrogen, it's not just liquid, right? It can be in any form, depending on the mode of carrier you're looking at, to basically displace hydrogen, gas in the system, or LNG, in Japan's case. But given current limitations, we see a very low level of displacements even out to 2050. But if for all the reasons that I mentioned earlier on, technology-wise, cost-wise, we can get to parity earlier, and of course, greater policy pushes in order to meet a 1.5 degree world, then we do see a much larger split in terms of green hydrogen into the power sector, displacing LNG or gas.
Thanks, Mr. Chen. Thanks again for your very informative sharing and answer to the questions. And how time flies now comes to an end of our webinar. Once again, I sincerely appreciate all the speakers today for preparing these speeches in your busy schedules. And also thanks for accompanying of our audience. This recording, along with the short recap, will be sent to all registrants next week. If you have any comments, please feel free to drop me a message at the below contact. And also please remember today's webinar is a virtual part of our physical conference, Connecting Green Hydrogen Japan 2023, which will take place on October 17th to 18th in Tokyo. Please don't hesitate to secure your tickets and join this must-attend event together with C-level decision makers from JBIC, Tokyo Gas, Hyacinth from Siemens Energy, Uniper, and much more to expect. We also look forward to your participation. Thank you very much. This is all for this webinar. And we believe that clean hydrogen in Japan will continue to grow in future. See you next time. Bye.